Hello everyone and welcome. This is Dawn. I hope you're having a good day. I'm back with another Christmas card and excited you could join me. I'm making a slimline card using patterned paper for my background, and I'll be focusing on heat embossing and showing you how I fix some of my mistakes. I'm using the adorable Cat Do Christmas stamp set. It has the cutest sentiments, and I'll be using this image right over here. I'll be pairing it up with the Slimline SurReally Cool Christmas pattern paper. I'm using this one right here, so I'm just going to pull it out for now. I'm also going to be using the Slimline Birthday Scallops die set to make a border around the pattern paper, along with the Decorated Tree die set. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is die cut all of my images out, and then I'm going to do all of my ink blending. I'm using my Distress Oxide Aged Mahogany, and I'm basically just going to add some around all the edges of the red border. I'm using the Aged Mahogany because the color needs to be a little bit darker than the color of the red border. I'm trying to mimic the color of the presents that are on the pattern paper and how some spots on the presents are darker than the others. Once I'm done with the aged mahogany, I'm actually going to bring in some black soot. I don't put a lot of this. I'm just basically trying to make it look distressed. So make sure you tap a lot of the black on the scrap piece of paper so your edges don't get dark. Then I just check to see if I like the look of it. I feel like it accents the presents really well by distressing the border. When that's done, I'm just going to quickly color the brown stump with some vintage photo. I'm not trying to distress it or anything, just making it a little darker than the craft paper. For the Christmas tree, I'm going to use some Rustic Wilderness. I just love this color for Christmas trees. I think it is the most realistic color, so that's why I use it a lot. Now, I'm ink blending the entire Christmas tree because I wanted it to be a much darker green color than the paper was. Then I'm going to use the Ranger Embossing Powder Snowflake Tinsel. I just love it. It's one of my favorite embossing powders. I'm going to have that ready to go after I ink blend my image because the Distress Oxide ink doesn't stay wet as long as the Versamark ink does. Now you can either pour the embossing powder on the image after you ink blended it with the blending brush. That will give it a smoother and more even coverage look. However, I'm going to use my ink pad to stamp my image because what this will do is give it a more uneven coverage so that some spots will have more of the white and glitter than others, and that is the look I was going for. I pour the embossing powder really quickly onto the image after I stamp it so the ink doesn't dry. Then when my heat tool is good and hot, I heat emboss the image. I hold it with a tweezer so it doesn't move all around. Make sure also not to stay in one spot too long or it will burn your paper. Next, I stamped out my image and cut it out with my brother's scanning cut. I also colored it to save some time. I will leave a list of the colors I used in the description box below if you're interested. Now, I guess I was having a rough day making this card and I got some of the ink outside of the black lines. You can fix that by using a white jelly roll pen and go over the Copic marker with it. No one will even know that you made a mistake. Here I'm going to put some white enamel accent on the hat. Make sure to shake it really well. I wanted it to look like it had a white fluffy trim and a pom-pom on his hat. I usually put 2 layers on, so that's why I'm putting a layer on right now. Then when it dries, I usually add a second layer. However, you might want to wait until the card is finished. For whatever reason, I kept touching the enamel accent today and I messed it up a few times, but I'll show you how I fixed that at the end of the video. And then I'm just going to set it aside to dry while I put the card together. The first thing I'm going to do is adhere the frame onto the pattern paper. I start out by putting it in the bottom right hand corner, and then I'm just going to trim off any of the excess pattern paper. I cut the stump in half and I adhere it to the pattern paper, and then I adhere the tree over the stump, and I actually have the tip of the tree laying on top of the border. This makes it look like the tree is a little bit taller. I stamped the sentiment above the presents. I do stamp it a couple of times since it is going on pattern paper. I want to make sure that it, has a dark enough look. Next, I'm going to put some snowflakes on my card. I'm using This Calls for Confetti. This one is called Christmas. It's absolutely awesome. It comes with so many things in it. I lay them where I want them to go, and then I adhere my cat to the card. I had waited to adhere him so that his hat could dry a little bit more. So now I start to adhere my snowflakes, and what do? I drop the snowflake on the white enamel. Now I contemplated leaving it there, but then I said, no, I really want it on the red part of the hat. So I scooped it out and basically messed up the white enamel. No big deal, I just added another layer of the white enamel and it looked fine. So now I finished adhering all of my snowflakes to the card, and I even put some on the tree. I adhere all of the red bows on the tree where I want them to go. And then to finish off the card, so I thought, I adhered the card front to a card base that I cut to 7 by 8, and then I scored it at 3.5, and it was a little bit bigger, so I just trimmed off a little bit, so I left just a little bit of a white border. Then if you look at the white on the hat, I must have touched it again. At this point, I just had too much of the enamel accent on it to put any more. So instead, I decided to pour some of the snowflake tinsel on it and see what happens. I was a little worried at this point I would ruin the cat image and have to start all over, but I went for it anyways. I took my heat tool and I held it a little farther away than I normally would, and the enamel accent was pretty cool. It started to bubble up as I heat embossed it, and I was able to press it down to smooth it out. It wasn't hot at all, actually. And then I went back and did it again to see what would happen, and it just bubbled up again. I was able to press it down again to give it a more smoother look, and I actually liked how it turned out. It raised it up and it looks fluffy, and it has the glitter on it to give it actually some excitement. So for me, a mistake turned into me liking it a little bit more than just the plain white accent enamel. You could also add regular white glitter to it and press it down and not heat emboss it for another option. Okay, so that's gonna complete my card for today. I want to thank you for joining me on the Whimsy Stamps YouTube channel. I would love for you to leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the card. Be sure to subscribe to the Whimsy Stamps YouTube channel and their other social media platforms so you don't miss out on any upcoming releases and great inspirational videos. Also, check out their website for all their new releases. And as always, thanks for stopping by and have yourself a wonderful day.